Let me show you how Xenett can help you find any missing recurring entries and how it can help you create the accruals just with the click. But before that, let me just give you some context. Every business would have some recurring expenses that they are paying. Examples, they're paying rent, electricity, insurance, software subscription. Now they may be paying on monthly basis, quarterly basis, or annual basis. Now, as an accountant, you want to make sure that you have those entries recorded in your books. And if those entries are not there, then you can either request it from your client about documentation, or you want to create the accrual. Now that process is very, very manual, because finding those recurring entries and then maintaining the list of such entries in Excel and then finding those entries manually is very, very time consuming. And that is the exact process that Xenett automates it. So let me show you how Xenett does that. So we have introduced this review point called entries checklist, and that takes care of the whole automation. If you do not see that review point in your closed process, then you can just add new and task, and then you can just pick and choose that review point from here. Now, in case if you are subscribed to Xenett AI Financial Review Plan, then instead of task, you will see the review point and you can just add from that. Now, once you've added the review point, this is what Xenett does. It scans the whole general ledger. It would then identify the vendor trend, and based on that, it would create this configuration. So in Xenett, we call this checklist. So to give an example, Canva. Xenett noticed that you have been paying to Canva for dues and subscription every month. So now it is going to expect an entry from Canva in dues and subscription account every month. And if that entry is not there, then it will show you the count here. So this is what Xenett is doing it for you automatically for the very first time. Okay. Now, if you also wanted to add some more checklists from your end, you can also do that. To add that checklist manually, just simply click on add checklist. And here you can manually select the name of the vendor. So let's just say I've been paying Microsoft, then I'm going to select Microsoft. The account is optional. So let's just say if you've been paying Microsoft for dues and subscription, you can even further select that. And this is an expected entry. So if you've only been paying once a month, you can do it that way. If you're paying twice a month or thrice a month, you can mention it that way. Now, it does not have to be every month. If you are paying someone on a quarterly basis or once in a year, you can also do that. So let's just say if you were paying Microsoft on a quarterly basis, you could also do that like hey, March, June, September, and December. So Xenett can also help you find any recurring entries, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or once in a year. So you can actually customize that. While adding this configuration, you can even further set up some filters. Like if you really wanted to see like, hey, that particular entry needs to be a check, or that particular entry should be for this particular class. So if you really wanted to add some more filters, you can also do that. Just simply click on add, and that checklist will be added in your list. Now, once you have added the checklist, in case if you want to make some changes, you can do that. Just simply hover your mouse on any of these checklists. You'll see this config icon. Click on it. And here, in case if you want to delete something, you should be just simply able to delete it right from here. Now let's just understand this screen. So here you can see all the checklists that Xenett has added, or maybe you have added from your end. And this is how you interpret it. So example, Slack. Slack, every month you're expecting one entry, but this is what you got in your general ledger. And these are the numbers that we are pulling from your general ledger and showing it to you. So in this case, I was expecting one entry for Slack every month, and I got one, and it's all matched. And by the way, right now we are looking at July month. And so for each month, you will kind of see the similar checklist here. Now let's just take another example here. So Canva. Every month I was expecting one entry, but in July month there is none. And that is why it says unmatched, correct? Now, the another situations for unmatched is that from Microsoft, I was expecting one entry, but for whatever reason, there are three entries. So that is also unmatched situation. Now, when you click on any of this count, you'll also be able to view the transactions that are there. Now, obviously, with the matched transactions, you do not have to take any actions because whatever you were expecting, you got it. But for the unmatched ones, you could then maybe request your client or ask your client like why this entry is not done. And after that, let's just say you decided to make the accrual entries for that. Let's just say for same CPA, you want to make the accrual. You click on create accrual. We'll keep all the information ready for you. We'll select that account, we'll select this vendor name, we'll also select the accrued expenses, date, and everything. Even the amount as well, we're gonna find out based on the previous history. And all you have to then do is just simply click on save, and it will then create the accrual entry. Now, by default, we do not select this option because we may not know whether you want to create the reversal entry or not. But if you click here and if you then click on save, both the entries will be recorded automatically. Now here we have also added a feature for command. So in case if you really kind of ask a question to your internal colleague, you can do that. At this point, we do not have a feature for client questions, but maybe in the future we may release that as well. And here at the top, I mean, by default, this will be the month or like the default selected, which is the one that you are closing right now. But in case if you want to quickly switch between the past months to see what the data was, you can also switch it very, very easily. Now you can add the checklist manually from here, but then we have introduced a report. It's called entries trend analysis, where we are showing you all of the vendor transactions by months, by accounts. So you can quickly go through and let's just say if you notice like, hey, this vendor is generally consistent across the months. For example, this one, okay? Every month you are paying this particular vendor. And if you then wanted to add the checklist from here, you just simply click on add checklist. It will automatically select those information for you. And all you then simply have to do is click on add, the checklist will be added. So all we are trying to do is just facilitating or making it the checklist creation process very, very easy through this trend report. So by default, you see 3 months here, but in case if you want to see more months, you can click on config and you can add more months as well. And there are some additional configuration just in case if you wanted to hide some vendors or transactions type or accounts from this list, you can also do that. Now, one more thing I wanted to mention with the entries checklist is that as you add more configuration, this list will be very, very long. So for example, here we can see there's a config for Hulu. Now that is something I'm expecting in December. Right now I'm in January. So if you do not want to see any of the future upcoming checklists here, be an option here. You could just say, hey, hide upcoming checklist. So that way, if there are config or checklist set up for the future months, those would be hidden from here.